Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, I had a quick scout of the comments before I started this, and there's talk of some kind of pee fetish going on within this story, so I'm just going to give you that warning there, and if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. This is from the Today I Effed Up subreddit from Dude Where's My Cute Car, saying, "Today I effed up going to my ex's wedding. My ex-girlfriend invited me to a wedding. It was unexpected, but I accepted. The invitation said the people who were allowed to bring a +1 were married or engaged couples. I was not engaged or married, so I went alone. I managed to couple up with another single guy at the wedding and stayed with him throughout the ceremony to avoid looking like I didn't belong. The two of us got separated at the reception because we were allocated to different tables. My table only had single people. As we got to know one another, we realized we had one specific thing in common. We were all exes of the bride. It was a little weird, but we made a joke of it because we assumed that was the point of us being there. Fast forward to the speeches. When it was the bride's turn to speak, she asked all of her exes to stand up, which we did. She informed the audience that we were the people she dated and disappointed over the years before she discovered the love of her life, aka her husband. She wanted us to know how grateful she was to have been with all of us, but then she locked eyes with me and said maybe not all of us. She said my name and asked me to wave at everyone. I waved like an idiot. She warned all the women at the wedding to watch out for me because I literally peed on her. The husband stood up at that moment and covered the microphone with his hand while he whispered something to his wife that made her look confused as fuck. The bride sat down without saying anything else. The husband made an awkward joke about his wife having too much champagne and instructed us to please take our seats. The DJ intervened and asked if any of the groom's exes were also in the house, which actually made the audience laugh. The music played and everyone pretended none of that just happened, except for me. I got the fuck out of there as soon as the lights dimmed for the disco ball. TLDR, accepted an invite from my ex to attend her wedding and ended up being named and shamed at the reception." So many questions. I mean, the table full of exes is genuinely unhinged in itself. Did the husband know that there was a table full of exes at this place? Was the coming out with "he peed on me" a part of the actual speech, or was it literally one too many champagnes that revealed that information? I mean, calling Opie out singly anyway, it's just all unhinged, right? It's fucked up. All I can say on the back of this is imagine just seeing your wife, who you just got married to, do some unhinged shit like that. I'd be taking a step back and thinking, what the fuck? But Whiskey says, "Man, if I were a husband yet saying the same, I think I'd be considering an annulment at that point. That behavior is kinda unhinged." Green Man on LSD says, "She made the wedding more about her exes and less about her actual husband. I'll be looking for an exit immediately." Jack OW says, "To be fair, girl, you asked me to do it repeatedly. There, problem solved." I'm assuming that's talking about the pee. Another commenter says, "And I tried to tell you no, but you threatened to break up with me if I didn't. The drinking of my pee was the nail in the coffin though. That is when I realized I couldn't be with a pee drinker." Silky Dream says, "That comeback could have turned the reception into a full courtroom drama. At that point, you're not a guest anymore. You're a surprise witness in the most unhinged wedding speech ever. The DJ would have needed hazard pay after that." I'm both excited about this and terrified at the same time, but 7 days later, Opie comes in with an update and says a few people who were at the wedding decided to reach out to me afterwards. I did a little breakdown. Random person 1. The guy managed to find me on Instagram. He introduced himself as a friend of the groom and said he was going to make me piss myself if he ever saw me anywhere near his friend or his friend's wife again. Fellow single friend I made, dude's dad owns an umbrella business or whatever, and he's been trying to sell me umbrellas, even though at the wedding he joked about their umbrellas being poor quality and absolutely not worth buying. Apparently he was drunk when he made that joke and now he's spamming me. One of my ex's exes DM'd me on Instagram and wanted to know if I really peed on the girl we both dated. I said I did, consensually. Based on his follow-up questions, I could tell he wanted me to provide more details and for me to be as descriptive as possible, which made me feel like he might be getting off for just taking the piss. Pun intended. Either way, I tapped out of that awkward Q&A as soon as he asked for my number so that he could create a group chat with all the other exes from the wedding. He never said it in so many words, but it was implied that he wanted the others to share their intimate experiences too, which was fucking weird. Random person 2. This person never identified themselves or bothered to at least send me a DM, but their Instagram profile showed their ID. I still didn't know who they were, but their pronouns were they and them, which I'm only mentioning because I'm using said pronouns to show much more respect to them than they showed me. They targeted the comment section in my last Instagram post and randomly replied to people who commented by telling them that I peed on their best friend who just got married. I blocked them, disabled my comments, and made my account private. But the damage was done. Friends, family, and co-workers who managed to read the messages sent to them before I disabled the comments contacted me to find out if I actually peed on another person. I was honest about what happened, but only with the people I considered close. The husband. I almost didn't answer when I noticed an unknown number calling me, but I did end up answering the call and realized it was my ex's husband. He said I was the first of 4 exes he was calling with an apology on behalf of his wife. He wanted me to understand that he was traveling for work during most of the wedding planning, so he apparently had minimal involvement, which actually suited him because his wife made him feel like she had everything under control. He joked about her trying to gaslight him into believing she informed him about her exes beforehand, but he remembered no such conversation. He made it sound like it was something funny because he never expected us to actually show up, even though we had to confirm we were coming. The longer I listened to him, the clearer it became he was gaming while talking to me. As a gamer myself, I automatically recognized the mechanical sound of those Dead by Daylight generators in the background. Dude would repeatedly pause mid-sentence to do whatever he needed to do in-game and then forget the last thing he said. I eventually asked him if it was a bad time, but he was like, "I'm on a honeymoon, bro, it's all good." I said I was sorry if my presence at the wedding made anyone uncomfortable. The husband said he appreciated my apology and playfully, or not playfully, encouraged me to avoid going to weddings of people I've peed on. I said I've learned my lesson. The husband literally said nothing for like 5 seconds and then asked, "What lesson?" Like he no longer had any idea what we were talking about. That was it for me. I was done having a conversation with someone whose attention was obviously elsewhere, so I said I had to go. The husband thanked me for calling him, even though he was the one who called me, but I didn't care enough to correct him. I just said goodbye. All of the above happened during the week. Thankfully, it's been radio silent since Thursday with the exception of the umbrella dude, so hopefully that means everyone else has moved on. TLDR, people from the wedding attacked me on social media for peeing on the bride. And there was loads of comments saying, why would she openly talk about being peed on? And I was thinking that, but then I remembered a few years back I was across at the pub and a guy openly was talking about to his group of mates and everyone else around could hear that he enjoys that kind of thing as well. But funny skinny guy says the internet never forgets, but the attention span is very short. Micah Sound says, wow, out of all the people in this story, the guy who likes to pee on people seems the most normal. No Name James says, I find it crazy how people are ignoring that she wanted him to pee on her. Like, unless OP is lying about that, this man did nothing wrong. I guess you could say that he had every right and all the freedom to decline her request, but I see it as him just trying to make his partner happy. All these people should be harassing the new bride for trying to shame her ex over her kink. Mashed Potato says, bride sounds like a piece of shit. OP says, I've been with her long enough to know that she's at least capable of being a good person and a supportive partner when she really wants to be. But sadly, for the most part, our relationship was overshadowed by her unexplainable urge to sabotage everything that means something to her before she eventually self-destructs. Dirty Windex says, this is one of my favorite stories now. Keep pissing, people. Want to buy an umbrella? OP says, I'm actually meeting Umbrella Guy next weekend for drinks. I have a feeling he's not going to show up empty-handed. You got some sort of like umbrella pyramid scheme going on the back of this. I want an update on that. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story also comes from the True Off My Chest subreddit with an update, of course, from anonymous25_35 saying, I've stopped nagging my husband and I'm happier. And a quick trigger warning before we do get into this story that there is talk of miscarriage and pregnancy loss during this story. So if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. I want to start off by saying this is not one of those just shut up and stay silent type of things. I've stopped nagging my husband, and I can say from the bottom of my heart, I'm so much happier. My husband has always told me that I overreact too much, that I get worked up and I'm constantly nagging him. We fight constantly about not putting enough effort into our relationship and him not doing his fair share of chores. I have to constantly remind him to be romantic, affectionate, and to pick up after himself. I will say that yes, I'm a very emotional person. I grew up like that, and I've always expressed my emotions and feelings with passion. When I'm upset, I'm very clear as to why and how it can be resolved. Thanks, Mum. Lol. Recently, something very big has happened. I was pregnant for about 5 weeks and lost it. The very emotional person I am, I was very sad and sulking and crying a lot, looking for comfort in my husband, as one does. There was none. This is how he is. He says I'm not very emotional and showing emotions is hard. Okay, I never blamed him for this. Trauma, childhood, whatever. I will admit that yes, I was giving him a hard time, being extra clingy. He does not like to cuddle or any mushy stuff. Doesn't mind when I give it, just doesn't like to reciprocate. Again, never blamed him. Wanting more love and support than I usually get from him, which is little to none. I'm usually the nurturing, loving, supportive one in our relationship. It's bothered me only in big situations like this where I truly need support and love and any sort of comfort. Once I realized I would find absolutely no comfort in my husband and no support, I cried the entire night and stayed up replaying every instance where I've absolutely needed him and his support. Then something clicked. Something shifted. I shouldn't give it if I don't receive, so I stopped. Everything. Love, support, nurturing, any physical intimacy, kissing, cuddling, etc. I stopped telling him what I needed to be done. I stopped asking for romance and, well, everything. I stopped nagging, as he would say. Once I did this, he immediately noticed. When he's at work, I usually give him updates about our 1-year-old and call to check in. Once he's home, I usually greet him with love and support from the workday. I usually listen to his long rants about his hobbies. This time, I did nothing. I give him head rubs and back scratches at night. I usually tell him he's so handsome and how much I absolutely adore him about 100 times a day. Again, I'm very passionate. Nothing. I'm usually on him about work assignments, what needs to be done around the house. I need help on how to manage our baby once he's home. I tell him to pick up after himself. I tell him to be romantic back and reassure me. Nothing. It's been about a week, and my mental health has gotten so much better. I feel like when I had to manage 2 toddlers, now I only have to manage 1. I have more free time to myself. I don't ask or listen to him about his day. I don't worry about him like I usually do. I pick up after my babies and my messes only. I don't have nearly as much to manage as I used to, and I feel so free. On the other hand, he is constantly asking me what's wrong. He's constantly checking in with me. He's doing all the things I usually would beg from him. He's being more physically intimate, although I'm the one rejecting now. He's asked on multiple occasions if I have fallen out of love with him. He's even tried apologizing for the way he's acted in the past, telling me he knows he took me for granted, even trying to give me the support I needed the first initial days I begged for it. He says I will have you glad to hear, or maybe not. I'm absolutely not reciprocating or forgiving this so easily, and I have no intentions on stopping. I don't even know if I ever want to. I feel so happy, like a weight has lifted off my shoulders. I don't care if it makes me a bad person. I like that he is now feeling and carrying the weight that I carried for so long. Edit, as many of you suggested, a deep conversation is needed. Many of you have suggested couples therapy, which I will not be initiating. I'm no longer putting the work in for our relationship to work, so this will be on him completely if he wants to. I will update how the conversation goes, although I know very well it will not be taken seriously and will get shut down completely. Divorce is absolutely on my mind and something I currently want. I'm a stay-at-home mum, so it's a long and hard process. Lastly, thank you all for the love and support in this difficult time. It sucks that I find it in strangers on the internet, not the person I married. But truly, I express my gratitude. That is mad. You know, when Opie was talking about miscarriage and the husband offering absolutely nothing, no comfort, no warmth, no nothing, you can understand why she would just stop nurturing, stop air quotes nagging, and just stop holding everything up in their marriage. And, you know, as soon as she did, everything completely fell apart. Now suddenly he's the one checking in, apologizing and trying to cuddle. And it just sounds like she's completely checked out. I think the thing is, though, at some point, a conversation needs to happen. It's either going to go one way or the divorce way, right? I'm struggling myself to move past that. How can he not offer anything with what you went through? How do you look at that person the same way again when they just offered nothing? But Ali77 says right now he's more invested in you. That's because he's trying to get things back to how they were. That won't last. If you stay on this path, eventually he will lose interest in getting back to how it was. Your marriage will become just 2 disinterested people leading separate lives, and he will look for love and affection elsewhere. Opie says, well, then good for him, lol. I'm done trying to win his affection and maintain a little boy. As soon as I'm well and able, divorce. Environmental says, to be honest, I think you need a divorce. Sorry. Opie says, this is the obvious answer. I'm a stay-at-home mum, so it'll be hard to divorce right away. Another commenter says, yeah, I think this one might be over. Please, OP, do me a favor. When you are finally free, please go to some therapy. A lot of your behaviors are huge red flags of trauma responses, and I think you may repeat some bad choices if you don't dig in and figure out what's going on with you internally. Opie says, I've done therapy for years and can identify my triggers. This is also why when I get absolutely zero support from my husband, I know it's his past and I've never held it over him until now. I think I know myself and have told all you people here that I am passionate, but that is very different from trauma responses. I think, excuse my personal opinion, wanting more comfort than usual, which is hardly any, from my very emotionally distant husband during a very emotional and hard time in my life is perfectly respectable. Shelby Cobra 90 says, so he was always aware of what it took to be a good partner to you and was always capable of it, but you needing his support wasn't a good enough reason for any of that effort. Him no longer getting yours is. He doesn't care about your experience of life, only his. Opie says, honestly, I've been contemplating and thinking about this a lot. He's always been completely capable, but it took me to be emotionally checked out from him to start. I agree and think you are absolutely correct in him not carrying about my experiences in life, especially ones where his support is needed. It said carrying, maybe caring maybe. But at some point later, OP does come in with her update and says a few of the commenters have asked for an update. And after many discussions with my husband, I have a sufficient one to give you all. Over the last few days since I posted, a lot has happened. Firstly and mainly the day after I posted, my husband and I had a serious one-on-one talk. I mainly started with, I wanted a divorce, and his lack of basically everything in our marriage from the beginning of it has finally caught up with me. I told him I'm completely and utterly exhausted and have absolutely zero energy to fight for our relationship anymore. His response was something I did not expect. I initially thought that he would shut me down and take it as unserious, so I then planned to proceed with divorce. But to my surprise, he broke down in tears. He completely blew my mind. I've only seen him cry a handful of times, recounting his childhood. Anyway, he took full accountability, telling me he knows his lack of emotions and support has affected our relationship and me deeply, and he wants to change. I told him I still wanted a divorce, even if he did change. I told him how he could always act this way with me. It just took me completely shutting down for him to start. He says because of me giving him the treatment he's been giving me these past years, that he finally realized how it feels to be in my position. He finally understood how I felt all this time. This was a 2-hour conversation. The next day we talked more. At this point my mind was still made up about divorcing. I don't and still can't understand how someone will tell you how it feels to be treated a certain way, and the only way you'll comprehend is if it's done to you. Anyways, another day of talking, he wants to get couples counseling and he's joined a 26-week course on how to compromise in marriage. I still make it clear I want a divorce. I can't shake the feeling of having to give him his own medicine for him to understand. More pleading from him to give him this one last chance, and he promises to do better. I told him I want lasting change that will be built on solid foundation, not changing for a few days then return back after I'm invested again. As many of you have said, I really want to avoid this at all costs. I don't plan on being invested in our marriage at all from this point until there's genuine change, and until we can talk to a couples therapist. I've also told him this. I will not be giving any more than I've received these last few years. As a lot of you have said, I carry 100% of the emotional and physical mental load of our relationship and household, and now I will only be putting that energy into my baby. I've also joined a support group for wives. I start in the middle of March. I also joined a new parent support program, so a worker comes in and gives parenting advice and guidance to new parents that my husband participates in. So a lot has happened in the past 4 days. Again, divorce is still on the table at this point for me. I want to see real change and not BS. I want someone who gives a shit when important things happen to me. I'm not forgiving him, nor am I forgetting. I'm just riding this wave and this is the last leg I stand on. If therapy doesn't work and set him straight, my baby and me are gone. I hope my update satisfies you all. It's been an absolute monster rollercoaster of emotions. Thank you again for the support. Apologies for any spelling or grammatical errors. I'm juggling a few things right now. A commenter said to OP, that was downvoted by the way. Good that he's at least trying, and I agree with everything except the if he doesn't change, the baby and I am gone. If that implies taking custody from him. The one hurting the most will be your own child by depriving it from its father. OP says one thing we did discuss, I'll share with you all, is what divorce will look like. My child is mainly attached to me and I'm the primary caregiver. And of course, he would be in our baby's life, but more so the baby would be with me mainly. We both agreed on this. It's better for both situations if a divorce is to happen. At this point, my child's emotional well-being is my top priority, so this is why I joined a program to help manage. Divorce is something we heavily discussed and something I explained vigorously that I wanted. We promised change and initiated couples counseling/therapy, so we'll see how it goes from here. Thank you and have a good day. Opie then responds to a long thread and said, well, no, I don't want to deprive him of everything he loves. He has a high demanding job. Some would say the hardest job in the world. He is sometimes gone for periods of time, so that is why we agreed so easily on it. Also, to answer another question here, doing more to be involved with our baby is 100% another requirement I have for him, and I've spoke to a counselor and him about. He's going to be doing the work. If not, then I want nothing to do with him. In those little updates there, I got stuck on the hardest job in the world. What job could that be? And I'm unsure how this one will go. It still feels like Opie's pretty much checked out and, one little inkling of his previous behavior comes in and she will be gone. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story is a little bit of office drama, saying office drama chapter, kimchi in the fridge, from Southern Macaron 496 in the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. There is a note on this one of kimchi is a traditional Korean side dish, fermented in salted vegetables. Hi everyone, long time lurker, rarely poster, but this has been bothering me for a few days. Apologies for any English mistakes, as it is not my first language. Straight to it. Me and my colleagues share an office fridge, and there have been rarely any issues up until recently. A co-worker brought in, a few days ago, a bag of kimchi. It is not homemade, as it is stored in the bag it is sold in, one that my co-worker has then closed with a little claw clip thingy. Those things that they sell at IKEA. It'll be relevant as well. It is not hermetic at all. Now, to preface, I have nothing against cultural foods, because this is what I've been getting in terms of criticism. I absolutely love Korean food, kimchi included. The issue is that godforsaken kimchi bag has been in the fridge for about a week, and the fridge now reeks of kimchi. Normally an issue I can deal with, except now the taste has started to get into other foods stored there, if you know what I mean. Have a couple of Kiwis in there who now vaguely taste of kimchi. Same for my sandwiches, and my cold brew that I make. Worst of all, it's gotten into the fancy butter that I like to keep there. Hence, I put a post-it note on the fridge. Can the person who brought in the kimchi eat it, throw it, store it better, as it's now causing odor and taste problems for other items in the fridge? Thank you. I tried to be straightforward and neutral, describing a problem so it could be fixed. I've now been accused of being culturally insensitive, disrespecting my co-worker's origins and making her feel bad/put on the spot. She is Korean, but I never assumed she was the one who had brought the kimchi in and never targeted her directly. Again, I truly had no bad intentions behind it. A few years ago, we had a similar issue with a very stinky cheese. The office is in France. Someone put up a similar post-it, and it was swiftly dealt with, no issues. I think I'm not the arsehole, but some people in the office are saying I should apologize to her, and that I was in the wrong. A commenter says to OP, not the arsehole, same thing happened in my work. Fortunately, we had a Korean co-worker that diffused the thing. She had no problem telling co-worker to remove their kimchi. She was quite annoyed and described how normally there are special airtight containers used, if not a completely separate refrigerator for kimchi. No one has a right to stink up the fridge in the workplace. Commenter says, not the arsehole, for real, kimchi's great, but office fridge needs airtight rules. Separate container or nah. Commenter says, not the arsehole, a week? No. In fairness, most places I've been, the fridge is ruthlessly emptied every week anyway. Opie says, well, to be fair, I don't think it's supposed to go bad, and I keep some long-term stuff there as well, like cans of seltzers and the likes. The smell was the problem. Commenter says, not the arsehole. However, over the last week, could you have not found out who owns the kimchi and talked to them? Most people are more receptive to a conversation than being called out with a note. Opie says, hi. I thought about it, but the office is very big. Something important to note is that we share a common cafeteria with other departments, and we rarely interact/barely know each other. I also thought that putting the note there would give the person privacy/would cause less drama. Also, frankly, I didn't have the time to go chasing people around asking if it was their bag. Another commenter says, no one's an arsehole here, but that doesn't mean you can't apologize for hurting your co-worker's feelings. Sounds like a misunderstanding that a simple conversation could easily clear up. Have we really fallen so far as a society that people will not just talk to each other directly instead of everyone going through back channels? So many of the posts on this sub are just like this one. I don't think I'm in the wrong, but everyone else says I am, except I've not actually spoken to the person everyone says is upset with me. Just talk to the coworker. Stop this nonsense of never engaging with even the slightest bit of discomfort. Hope you reply saying I will talk to her tomorrow, but I would just like to preface that I wrote the note and thought nothing of it. For clarity, I signed it with a thank you, smiley face, my name. It is then she started going around telling people she felt put on the spot, instead of speaking to me directly. That also does bother me, because a simple conversation could have avoided what I see as bad mouthing, and now I'm kind of peeved too. Commodore says not the arsehole. I was confused by a bag of kimchi. I've only ever seen containers of kimchi with resealable lids. I can only assume that the bag is not that big, and meant to be consumed in one sitting, not stored for extended periods after opening. You probably could have approached it better, and I think you 100% knew who it belonged to. I've been in offices where food in the fridge is thrown out on a scheduled day of the month. So if you have something in there that is a month old, it is getting tossed since the owner probably forgot about it. OP says, first of all, my office is big, and there are a lot of departments that I do not interact with, so no, I didn't know who the kimchi belonged to. Nor did I have the time to go look for said person. The bag itself is, well, a bag. Kind of looks like this. And OP shared a picture of the kimchi bag, and it just looks like one of those, you know, the microwave rice pouches kind of thing. But apparently this was sealed with like one of those clips, the resealable clips. But OP comes in with an update on the back of a comment. So someone said this, not the arsehole, I'm part Korean and grew up eating kimchi. However, Korean mums have a kimchi fridge that is a separate refrigerator for smelly kimchi so it doesn't stink up the regular fridge and permeate other foods. You are right for pointing that out. Even Koreans know that it's rude to stink up other food with kimchi. I can't believe a Korean coworker did that. OP says just saw this and other people are confused, so I thought I'd reply in case. Turns out my coworker was adopted and didn't grow up with a Korean culture, and she is now trying to reconnect with, including through foods. We had a talk and this came to light. She was being insecure due to her own issues, and the kimchi posted exasperated that. It's all good now. I keep seeing stories of kimchi and how smelly it can be. How bad is it? I really want to just go to the shop. I don't know if I can get it from a local Tesco's or whatever. Apparently they do sell it in the local Tesco's. I just looked it up. I just want to get it just to smell it and try it. How bad can it be? Famous last words, right? I'm glad that things did work out well in the end for all the co-workers and that they had a talk and, you know, being insecure about her own issues to do with it and trying to find her own culture. You know, you can feel for her. I mean, myself though, I don't think I could ever go into an office with stinky food. It's always like the example of microwaving fish, right? I'm not sure how anyone's got the balls to go in with like, I don't know, sardines or whatever and stick them in the microwave. I remember many moons ago, I was on a train, I think I was going to Reading at the time, with a couple of mates, and someone opened up a Tupperware tub of fish. And I'm not saying this is the correct way to deal with it, but I'm not going to lie, it did make me laugh. This guy was eating this fish and it stunk out the carriage. I mean, it reeked. And some guy as he was getting off went, yo, you dirty bastard. I mean, the guy didn't give a shit. He kept on eating his fish, but it was wild. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here today. Truly is absolutely amazing. And hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.